is not on the agenda. And I do not see that we have anyone in the queue. Is that correct, staff?
We do not have any general public comment.
Thank you. All right. Are there any agenda items proposed to be tabled or rescheduled tonight?
There are none.
All right. Thank you. Then let's start public hearing number 1. Conditional use permit 20-08, P20-0050, 39 Terrace Hill Drive. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairperson Jorgensen. So I don't, oh, it's up there. Okay. So this is for a height exception for a detached accessory building. We're going to work microphone. Okay. So this is a conditional use permit to approve a height exception for a detached accessory building at 39 Terrace Hill Drive. This is a residential property in the R1 zoning district. Next slide. So the property is located west of Chestnut Street. It's north of 12th and south of 15th Street. So to access Terrace Hill Drive, you drive up 15th Street. The property is on a private driveway off of Terrace Hill Drive. There's 4 houses off the private driveway. Later in the presentation, we'll see a photo that was taken from the property to the west of the site. So you see a yellow arrow here that shows you where that photograph was taken. Next. So some project history. There's a residence that's under construction on the property. It's a just under 3,800 square foot house. It does have an attached, about 1,000 square foot attached garage. So in total, it's a 4,800 square foot residence. In 2019, when the applicant proposed the residence, the DRC did review, to do a design review for a standing seam metal roof and some Core 10 metal siding, which were approved for the residence. So I've been being told that we are not broadcasting on YouTube, and so I'm going to pause and wait for some technical changes here.
So Commissioner Jorgensen, let's recess for.
All right. Well, meeting recessed.
Okay, Roberta, we got a green light to resume. Let's restart the hearing for item 1. Can you reintroduce it, and we'll start from the beginning?
Yes, I will do that. All right, so I will open the public hearings for item number 1, conditional use permit 20-08, P20-0050, 39 Terrace Hill Drive, a request for a height exception
Roberta,
to
we got a
construct a
green light to
16-foot and
resume.
1-inch tall detached accessory structure. May we have the staff report?
Thank you, Chairperson Jorgensen. So this is a conditional use permit for a height exception for a detached accessory building. The property is 39 Terrace Hill Drive, which is in the R1 zoning district. Here's an image of the location of the site. This is west of Chestnut Street, between 12th and 15th Streets. You access Terrace Hill Drive from 15th Street. The red line is the perimeter of the property. The house is near the yellow star off of a private access driveway, which is shared with 3 other residences. Later in the presentation, there'll be an image taken from the neighbor's backyard, which is 38 Terrace Hill Drive. That yellow arrow indicates where that photo will be taken from, the vantage point from which that photo was taken. Next slide. So a little bit of project history. There is a residence on the property that's under construction. It's just under 3,800 square feet. There's about 1,000 square foot attached garage, which results in a 4,800 square foot house. In 2019, when the applicant proposed the residence with a standing seam metal roof and some Corten metal siding, those needed to go to the design review committee, and the development review committee did approve both the metal roof and the Corten metal siding. Today, we are here to consider an 1,800 square foot detached accessory building that is now proposed. At the bottom, you see the existing residence and the proposed detached accessory structure as they would look together. So here's some images of the residence that's under construction. You can see it's got stucco siding, that standing seam metal roof, and then some Corten metal accent walls and along the front. Next slide. So this is a site plan. The proposed building is 1,800 square feet. It's about 30 feet by 60 feet deep. There is a 10-foot side setback off of the western property line. The maximum height of the proposed building is 16 feet and 1 inches tall, and there's metal siding proposed. So here's the elevations. The total elevation at the highest point is 16 feet and 1 inches. The lower wall, which is what the property owner on the western property line will see, is 12 feet and 9 inches there on that side. So the applicant has proposed the following colors and materials. The roofing is standing seam, as is the roofing on the existing residence. So we've got some corrugated siding proposed for the detached building, and you can see the roof is proposed to be the same color as that on the residence under construction, and then the wall and trim are proposed to be some other gray colors. So just a rundown of the code requirements for detached accessory buildings. These are, they have what they call warn you'll want to click through as we go. So they can have floor area less than 50% of the residence. The height is limited to 15 feet. You see this in red because this is why we're here this evening. The proposed building is just over 16 feet tall. Front setback can't be less than the main residence. The side setback has to be at least 3 feet on the side. And then the materials, colors, and relief treatment need to be architecturally compatible with the main building. So I think the 2 main issues that we'll be discussing this evening are, first of all, the height exception. That is the main reason we're here. And then in addition, when this project went to the Development Review Committee for review of the materials, the colors, the appearance of the project, the Development Review Committee was not comfortable calling this project architecturally compatible. The DRC did ask for the entire Planning Commission to review, but did have some discomfort with the proposed colors and materials. Next slide. So we are mostly considering a height exception this evening. Warren, if you'll push again, and we'll get some red circles. So this is some images of the site from offsite. The first image there is on Locust Street, pretty close to 15th Street, which you see there in the foreground. Up in the background, when you're on site, you can see a little glimpse of the residence, but as you can see in the red circle, it's pretty hard to see. So it's not highly visible from this vantage point. A little further away on the right, Locust and 16th Street, so I'm backing up to the north. You can see the existing residence, the residence under construction, peeking up there above the tree line, but it is not extremely visible. You can actually see the residence to the left of that, kind of to the south, because it's a two-story residence, but the residence under consideration, not particularly visible, and the proposed structure is about the same height, just a little under the existing residence. So now we're moved to Chestnut Street between 14th and 15th. Again, you can see the residence poking up above the tree line. This is zooming in. The proposed building would be to the right of the house and behind those trees that you see there. So not extremely visible from offsite, but certainly this is now, and I've got the address wrong there. This is 38 Terrace Hill, not 138 Terrace Hill. So we're looking to the east from the residence at 38 Terrace Hill. Obviously, this is a structure that's going to be quite visible for the neighbor that's next door. So this is the code section that talks about detached accessory buildings and their architectural requirements. It does say that they need to be constructed architecturally, they need to be architecturally compatible with the main building in terms of materials, colors, and relief treatment for elevations and roofing materials. Typically, so we get metal building applications, just building permit applications for metal buildings a few times a year. Staff does not feel comfortable calling those architecturally compatible in general, so we refer those in general to the DRC. Typical expectations would be to place the structure at the rear of the property. There's some discussion in the staff report about the reasons why putting this structure at the rear of the property is not possible, and they're largely due to slope. The house and the proposed building are located on a pad that's been made at the top of the property, but then the property slopes down pretty well behind these structures. There's also some oak trees that are behind the proposed building. In general, we would also expect metal buildings to have similar colors to the primary residence. But as you can see from this perspective drawing, the building is very different than the primary residence. The primary residence is stucco. It does have the Corten siding and the standing seam metal roof, but the proposed building is all rolled corrugated metal siding. The applicant is proposing that the detached building would have the same color as the garage doors that are on the primary residence. So those colors are meant to match. But one of the determinations that the Planning Commission needs to make this evening, number one, is the height an appropriate exception. It's not a huge exception to the height requirement. And then number two, is this project architecturally compatible? In your proposed resolution, there is a determination that this project is exempt from CEQA as a Class 3 categorical exemption for small structures. Next slide. So there are some draft conditions. Staff is recommending that the workshop be moved so that it is not currently, even though the detached building is actually further from the driveway, from the shared driveway than the residence. If you look at the residence and the detached building in a single geometric plane, the detached building is actually forward of the house. And so staff is recommending that the building be moved back at least 5 feet so that the front wall of the house is prominent of the workshop. And then there are some draft conditions that require the project to comply with the performance standards that are listed in the zoning ordinance. There's a thing for things like safety, noise, vibration, odors, and glare. So the Planning Commission does need to make some findings this evening in order to approve this project. The first is that it's consistent with the general plan and the zoning ordinance, and that does include all of those standards, including the architectural standards of the zoning ordinance. The project, the Planning Commission needs to find that the project is not detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the community, that the project is consistent with the character of the neighborhood, that the project will not generate traffic beyond the safe capacity of roads that lead to it, and that the use of the structure won't be injurious or detrimental to property or improvements in the neighborhood. As always, the Planning Commission does have some options. The first would be to adopt the draft resolution as proposed. The Planning Commission also has the option to amend the draft resolution. They might want to adopt some additional conditions that would address architectural compatibility. Certainly, if the Planning Commission is not comfortable with the project, they can refer it back to staff for additional analysis. The Planning Commission could also deny the resolution based on the determination that the project does not meet any of the required findings that were listed before. Staff is recommending that you adopt draft resolution A, but certainly consider some potential additional conditions if needed. And that, I believe, is the end of the presentation.
All right, thank you. I'd like to open this for questions of staff from the Planning Commission, and I will start with Commissioner Kogler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Curious if either in staff discussions or at the DRC, first off, there was discussion about the height of the building. Is it really necessary to go above the 15 feet to accomplish a shop at this particular location, or I guess in any given location? As I look at the perspective that's on the screen right now, one of the reasons I ask about the height is I struggle a little bit with the shed roof being not terribly compatible in my eye with what appears to be more of a shallow hip roof on the home. And the home is extremely attractive, by the way. And the accessory building strikes me as being just out of sync with that by roof pitch, by the roof in and of itself. And so I was curious as to, was there discussion about compliance with the 15 feet for an opening? And then secondarily, I think consideration needs to be given, obviously, to the materials and the look, potentially the roof of the building itself. Was there conversation about the 15 feet versus the 16.1?
That was not a major topic of conversation at the DRC, no.
Okay, thank you. I think that's the only questions for the moment, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Davis?
I don't have any questions right now about the applicant's project. I do just want some clarification from staff. I see the addendum that you sent. All of those items, page 13 through 21, were indeed in my staff report. Is it merely the title that was missing? It was not illogical whatsoever. So I just wanted to understand why that was sent.
Yes, when we published the agenda report on Friday, I did some formatting that seems to have deleted titles for the attachments. The attachments themselves seem to have printed, but the titles would cause some confusion with some public comments that we received, and I just wanted to make sure that the planning commissioners could use the report that was given them. The titles help to of course, to direct to what the item is, what you're looking at.
Okay, because I saw no problem in the information in the staff report. I thought it was complete. Thank you, Katie. That's all that I have for now.
All right, Commissioner Neal, do you have questions?
I do. Katie, the wall and trim, what is the trim color and what is the wall color?
We're going to bring the slide back up. Oh, here we are. It's not, I don't see it on YouTube yet, but so the wall and trim, oh, I see. I believe the charcoal gray, the darker color, is intended to be the walls and the ash gray is the trim. The applicant is with us this evening and I'm sure could confirm for us.
Okay, I was on DRC and I was the one that brought up the concern about the color, and I had suggested that potentially we pick a color that's closer to Corten to better match the house as a sort of a metal panel. The applicant was not willing to make that change, so it did not seem that any suggestions by DRC were going to go very far, so that's why I suggested that it come to the entire commission for approval. Thank you. That's it for me.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Castillo? Is Commissioner Castillo present tonight?
I show him present in the meeting, Madam Chairperson.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Kogler. I received a text from Commissioner Castillo saying he was on the road and in the meeting, but needed to find a power cord. So he was going to see if he could accomplish that. So I would assume he may be back with us shortly.
All right, thank you very much. Then let's go to Commissioner Christensen.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The question I have, I really just have one question for staff, and it's a little obtuse in comparison to what's there. Maybe two questions. Do you have a picture from the Terrace Hill Drive, a live picture of what that would be? And then secondly, as part of that, I didn't see it in the addendum from staff. The other question I had was, what would have been, what's the max height of the roof of the residence? What would be allowed in that location? And that's it.
So the a residence could be 35 feet tall at this location, so it could certainly be more than one story. I think I've forgotten your first question. Oh,
that's okay. I was curious if you had a photo from Terrace Hill Drive, like a shot from looking back into the private drive. And the shot we have is the house, but that's from the location. If you drive into the private drive and you're looking back at the house, do you have one from the street where that? I noticed there's a big pine tree there. I know it's on the drawing, but I think you can't see the significance of it until you see what it looks like from Terrace Hill Drive.
I think
I was just looking to see if you had taken a photo of that.
I don't have a photograph. I have been up there to just kind of have a look, and I agree. I don't believe that this proposed building will be extremely visible from Terrace Hill Drive proper. Certainly from this private driveway that we're looking at right now, it will be visible, but not extremely visible from Terrace Hill Drive itself.
So then one quick follow-up question on that, if you don't mind. Oh, there's a shot. Went back. Yep. So one quick question that I had, if you don't mind, a follow-up on that. The decision to move it back 5 feet, was that part of satisfying what the code because of the front of the house? Is that how that was determined?
So it's a staff recommendation. The code requires that the detached accessory building not be any closer to the road than the residence. It's proposed to be actually a little bit in space, it's a little bit forward of the house, but it is farther because the driveway is on a curve. If we bring up the site plan, you can see that even though the detached building is a little bit forward of the house, it's still farther away from the driveway. So the 5 feet is just a staff recommendation to try to make the detached building a little bit less prominent, make it a little bit more compatible, but it is a suggestion. It's a draft condition.
Sure, I can appreciate that, understanding that. Okay, I appreciate that. That's the only questions I have at this moment. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Gibson, do you have questions of staff?
Just one, just to follow up on Commissioner Christensen's comments or question. I'm just trying to get clarity on the what you're referring to is the draft condition for the structure to be located 5 feet behind the front wall of the residence, because I saw that in the staff report on page 11, but I did not actually see that in that language in the draft resolution or any of the conditions. So is that something, if we wanted to do that, we would have to add that language?
It's included as condition number 2. The project shall substantially conform to Exhibit B with the following modification, and then it lists the 5 foot, changing the setback 5 feet.
Okay, all right. That's my only question. Thank you.
All right, let's, in that case, let's open the public hearing. And first, if the applicant would like to speak, please do so.
Yeah, this is John Hammond. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, let me share the screen. Oh, only meeting organizers can prevent. Oh, I lost that ability. I was the one that provided the picture to the person asking about the view from Terrace Hill, but for some reason I can't share my screen again. I'd like to share my screen so I can show the proposed building site where it is. I have that ability again to.
Yeah, so Jay, put your screen up now, and then we'll have to share it for the public to see. So put it up, and then we'll let you know when to start talking.
All right. All right, so here's my screen again. Yeah, so currently the proposed building site is about, I'd say about 8 feet in front of the garage as it is. I would prefer to leave it there. My neighbor to the west has the shop. He has some concerns about the view being obscured. If we push it back, it actually pushes it back almost 15 feet, obscuring his view more. And as it sits right now, I am about 45 feet from the edge of the private drive. And as you can see, this is the approach coming in from Terrace Hill onto the private drive. The shop's actually going to be located kind of behind this tree. So it's very much screened from Terrace Hill. As a matter of fact, I don't think you can even see it from the actual public street. And so I would prefer to not move it back 15 feet from where it's currently located, or 13 feet or so, if it's possible to leave it where it is. And then for the use of the building, we want to store kind of as an accessory garage, and I want to be able to put a trailer in there. So the height of the building is set so that it's 12 foot tall, so I can get a taller vehicle or trailer in there, and not worry about issues. And that's the reason that the height is a concern, is because if I have to reduce the height down to 15 foot, which I could have done, it drops my opening height on my garage door to 10 foot, which limits the ability to get larger trailers or vehicles in there. And so that's why I'm petitioning for the conditional use permit, is mainly because I want that extra foot. Yeah, and so I don't know if there's any other questions pertaining to that. I know that one of my neighbors was concerned about possibly starting a business out of this garage. I am not. I currently rent about 16,000 square feet of commercial space out the airport, that I have more than enough room to do production out of here. I'm not planning on doing any type of commercial business out of this type of garage. I am a hobbyist. I do build things on weekends, and I will have a wood shop in the back half of the garage. And this is a 3D rendering of the house, kind of showing what it will look like for height in comparison to the house. The house is 16 foot 10 to the top of the ridge currently, and the shop, and it's not great in this perspective, but the shop is about 9 inches lower. And like I said, the back half of the garage is where the wood shop is going to be located, and constrained to that area mostly. Is there any questions for me from the staff or from the Planning Commission?
Commissioners, Commissioner Kogler, any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Kogler?
Sorry, Madam Chair, my mouse was trying to escape me there. No, not at this time. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Davis?
So could you re-explain for me? I think you're trying to be very sensitive to the view of your neighbor to the left, and so you would give how much more view for the neighbor if you kept your placement of the building where it is? Could you explain that again?
Yeah. So this is a site plan right now. Moving this whole pad back would move about 15 or 13 feet back to be what city staff is saying 5 feet behind the house at a right angle. And right now the house sits back at 20 to this point in actual construction is 27 feet from the blacktop. So if we push it back, way out here, it will push this back into their view. The neighbor's view is more kind of north looking or northeast looking. So they kind of look more this direction.
Sure.
In the picture they took. So if we push this back, it will block more of their view to the east.
It looks like that pushing it back would put it very close to that. There's that line there. Is that where it starts to slope down? So your preference, you'd like to have a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd like to have a little more room in the back. I'm not planning on putting anything back there.
Right.
But yeah, if we can stay away from the edge of the hill and pushing it back 12 feet isn't necessarily going to encroach that hill. I probably have about 30 feet there now, I would say, from the proposed location. But I just, like I said, I'm just trying to be cautious of their view. They are up on a hill that overlooks that area. Let me pull this tab in here. So this is the current build site. Of course, it doesn't have the house on there. This is my neighbor's house. And as you can see that they are up on a hill and are above the shop. But like I said, their view shed kind of looks out this direction, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a gazebo sitting right here. You can't see it in the satellite image, but they do have a small gazebo, and that's where the earlier picture was taking, looking towards the house. But like I said, most of their view kind of goes at an angle. Of course, the house blocks whatever the view they had to the south.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I was just trying to think about the placement of your detached structure there or your accessory building there. So thank you. I appreciate that. That's all I have.
All right, Commissioner Neal?
Yeah, if I could just get a clarification on the colors, the body color and the trim color.
Yeah, so the colors, we're planning on doing the trim the same as same color. We haven't decided on an exact color. We want to do it a gray because we think it will blend really well with the white that's on the house currently. And so we don't know the exact color. The trim on the sides for the fascia and the roof are going to match. So whatever that color is for the roof is going to match, which is the existing house is like a burnished slate, bronze color.
So then the two colors that are charcoal gray and ash gray are not the colors you're picking for the building?
No, we do want a gray. We're just not sure which of those two colors. We haven't decided on the color, the exact gray that we want. We want a gray color.
And the reason that you weren't willing to do something more akin to the Core 10 so we could match the building a little closer?
The Core 10 in our view, my wife's and I's view, it's just a little too bold, I think. It does look good on the house as an accent, but to make the whole building that way is going to be a bit difficult. I think it's just a little too dark, personally. So.
And by the way, that wasn't the direction of the DRC, the direction was to use some Corten as an accent on the building, not the entire building, Corten.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys wanted the whole building Corten. And we possibly could use that on some of the sides. But honestly, I think it would stand out a little bit more. Let me see if I can find a current picture. I don't have those in a quick folder that I can get to. That shows that the white with the gray. Unfortunately, I don't have that readily available for the white, but it was in the earlier presentation.
Staff, could you bring up the sample board slide, material board slide?
I shared my screen, or I put the screen back to the staff. So.
Yeah, give us a second. We have to reset. All right, can you see that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So I'm just going to jump in with a question since Commissioner Neal also already raised this. So the charcoal gray and the ash gray are choices, or those are? I'm confused.
So the ash gray and the charcoal gray are the two colors we're proposing. We aren't sure which one of those we're going to do, but all the siding for the building, the siding for the building will be one of those two colors.
Commissioner Neal, it's your question. I just jumped in with that.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'd like to know what I'm approving. And as part of the DRC, I suggested that the metal match the exterior Corten in profile as well. But I honestly don't have a big problem with this particular profile of siding. But I just thought it would match better if it was a flat panel as the house is.
The flat panel is sorry for jumping in here. This is John Hammond again. But the flat panel is really hard to do. It has to have some sort of rib on there. When you hang it vertically, it starts to do what's called oil canning. And it does not appeal, doesn't look very good at all when you put flat steel on there. The reason the rust or the Corten on the house doesn't oil can, it technically does slightly, but it's not reflective of light. So you can't see it as easily.
Oh, they've done flat panel Corten all over the country and don't have it oil can. So there is ways to do it.
Yeah, well, Corten is a thicker metal. Corten's typically like a 22 gauge steel. Most of the time when you're using a colored roll stock like this for steel buildings, it's made out of 26 gauge. But I think, we could possibly put some accents on there for Corten. I'd have to check with the wife. And she did text me. She kind of likes the charcoal gray more than the ash gray. So she's kind of leaning more that direction.
And additionally, at the DRC meeting, I asked if the neighbors were on board with this. And I was assured that they were, but it seems that potentially they may not have been.
The neighbors on the private drive, my 3 accompanying neighbors who share the driveway together, are all fine with it. And they've put letters in to that effect, except for one neighbor. She did not get an email in, but I have talked to her personally.
That is it for me.
All right, has Commissioner Castillo been able to rejoin us? Doesn't sound like it, so we will go to Commissioner Christensen. Do you have questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I just.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me all right? Oh, Leo, did you want to get in there? Go ahead.
Hello?
Excuse me, who is this? For the record,
Sorry,
who is
can you hear
this?
me okay?
For the record, who
This
is
is Commissioner
this? Yes.
Castillo.
All right, Commissioner Castillo, do you have questions of the applicant?
No, Madam Chair, I'm good right now.
All right, Commissioner Christensen, back to you.
Thank you. This is more of a curiosity question. The front doors to that building, are those going to be, are they really glass? They look like glass there. Are you planning on keeping that as such?
They will be glass, but they're going to be satin obscured glass.
I'm sorry, they'll be what? I'm sorry?
Satin glass, so you can't see in. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
On the drawing, they are just see-through.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think I've got all my questions answered for now. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Commissioner Gibson, do you have questions for the applicant?
No, Madam Chair. I was on DRC, so I do not have any questions for the applicant. Thank you.
Okay. I don't think I do at this time. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to other public comments. Staff, I don't see names in a queue. Do we have people waiting?
Yes, we do. First caller
All right,
is John Hayes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hayes, would you try and limit your comments to about 3 minutes and state your name and your address for the record? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. 38 Terrace Hill Court. John Hayes. Is John still here?
Yes, I am.
The applicant?
Yes.
Well, we're not going to have.
Yeah. How's it going, John?
Good.
Excuse me. We're not going to have a two-way conversation, though. If you could make your presentation, and then we'll listen to the other people, and then we'll come back and answer all the questions after we hear all the public comments. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. I'm concerned about the height. I'm concerned about the wood shop in the back, and I would like clarification on if it's strictly going to be used for storage, and also if I oppose the decorative outside. Where do I go from there? So those are my comments, and thank you very much.
All right, and we'll get back to you with an answer to your question. All right. Do we have another caller?
Yes, next caller is a Rudy and Joni Wallat.
All right, thank you. And again, if you could state your names for the record, try and limit your comments to about 3 minutes and give us your address, please.
Hi, Rudy Wallet, 38 Terrace Hill. We're right above the project site. And I pretty much agree with the first commissioner. I didn't catch his name, but I think that the roof and the building itself is totally inappropriate for this neighborhood. It is a warehouse, and we're going to have to look at this thing forever and ever. And
we're right next door.
We're right next door, and we would just like if he's going to build a shop there, then it should be compatible with the main dwelling and have a hip roof, which is no problem. And if the height restriction isn't enforced, then a 15-foot, building will accommodate a trailer. I mean, these guys are in the garage door business. If they can't figure out how to put a sliding door or something on there to get a trailer in there, then I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, that's about all I have to say right now, except part of the original plan that hasn't been complied with for building the house was the removal of that eucalyptus tree. And we see that it's still there and it's growing and growing and interfering with our view over the top of his house. So anyway, that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have another public caller?
No other public comments, Madam Chairperson.
All right, thank you. So staff, we had a question pretty much related to the process. What can the neighbor do with their concerns? And then the question about the tree. Those were the questions that I had, unless you heard some others.
So the Planning Commission this evening is tasked with finding this project architecturally compatible with the primary residence. And so I think there's some leeway in, what the Planning Commission wants to require. It's a stucco house with a hip roof. And so the Planning Commission needs to make requirements that make you comfortable making a finding that is architecturally compatible. So I think that is, that's the leeway that you have. As for the eucalyptus tree, it's not an oak tree, so there's no protections for the tree. The applicant can certainly remove it. I imagine when this building is constructed, it will be removed, but there's no requirement that the tree be removed at this time.
All right, thank you. So I will close the public hearing since there are no other callers. And let's go back to the Planning Commission for discussion, and we'll go in our same order. First, Commissioner Kogler, please give us your comments on this project and what you've heard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you get the perspective back up on screen again, please? There we go. Thank you. I still struggle with the appearance of the accessory building with the shed roof. I think the house is very nicely designed. It's going to be a very attractive structure when it's done. And I think this might benefit from at least a hip roof that's similar to what is on the home. I'm trying to think back to precedent. In recent months, we had an individual who had another house that had Core 10 on it that came in with an accessory building that then subsequently was added on to. And I believe there was a roof change as a part of that second change to that, which made that roof more compatible in form to the home. And I think this could benefit from the same thing. As Commissioner O'Neill said, I think it would be very helpful to know what we're being asked to approve here in terms of color. By the appearance of the perspective, it appears that this building facade color, the accessory building facade color, is intended to match the garage doors on the home. So if that's the case, we were given a wall and a trim color, and basically decide what you want and let us know what that is. So my only reservations with this are really the form of it. I actually could see that the 16 feet of height, since it really matches the home, is not necessarily excessive here. And if a hip roof came in at that form, I think that would be something I would favor. Not lost on me also is the fact that someone could have built a 2-story home basically in this location that could have gone up 35 feet. So I think given all of that, my only concern with the proposal as it stands right now really is the kind of the form of the building itself. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Kogler. Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in here. Couple of things. I think, first of all, much like the DRC, I have no problem with the height exception. We've done those in the past. And I concur with Commissioner Kogler. It could have very easily been a 2-story building on that footprint. And so I have no problem with the height exception. When we're talking about the color, I don't have a problem with what they're proposing either. I know there was a little bit of confusion. Do they want the charcoal gray or the ash gray? But it kind of depends on the perspective when you enter the private driveway there. As you're first entering, if you look at the colors, you see white and about the same amount of that charcoal gray, and then you see the darker brown. I think let the applicant pick which one they want for their project. I don't see a problem with the color that they're proposing. I personally feel that the color and the materials, they're all compatible the primary residence. And I think that there is support for that in the packet from residents in the neighborhood. So I'm not finding a problem with the project. I do like the idea of being sensitive to the neighbor nearby and maybe positioning it so that it lessens the blocking of their view as sensitivity to that. But we always knew something would develop there someday. So I don't have any problems with the project. I'm even supportive of the applicant's request to keep the placement of the structure as is. And those are my comments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Neal?
No further comments.
Commissioner Castillo?
Madam Chair.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry about the lag. I'm having issues. I have no further comments. I just wanted to say I do echo Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Kogler's comments on. I have no issues with the color scheme, their property. I also agree that it could have been way worse and could have been a 3-story condo. So I'm content with everything that's been presented tonight.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Christensen?
Thank you. A couple comments. I went up and viewed the property today too, and I have to admit it was refreshing. I personally like the contemporary look. I think it's a very nice design. That hill has always been a special hill, but I do believe that the change in design is actually fitting for our town. I think it's going to become more common. I don't have any problems with the colors. Particularly I'd love to see it match the garage doors on the house, but I mean, gray is gray. It just depends on your version of it. I definitely don't have a problem with the height. I think that in all intents and purposes, I think that the shed roof gives it a little bit of a deceptive look, that it's not as tall as maybe it would be. From the street, you can't really see that the shop, or wouldn't see where it would be because that pine tree is in the way, which is fine. I mean, it looks good. You just see the house. And I believe there's another contemporary house up there on the hill, if I remember correctly. And there's a few hodgepodge different styles of homes in that neighborhood, as is becoming very common on the west side as we grow. My biggest concern is that I agree that with Commissioner Davis, I know staff is doing what they think is best, but I do not believe we should move that shop back. I think that the neighbor truly would appreciate having that continued view looking east. And, they have oak trees on their property, and those are limited to what they can do with those. And I'm sure they keep them trimmed up nicely. But in my opinion, I would not move that shop back. I think hiding it forward in front of that tree is fine. Keeping it out of the view shed of the neighbor, I think, is very considerate. I like that. I do kind of feel like maybe the front of the building, if you wanted to do something like another small overhang or something that would change the front there. But really, again, I don't feel like you see it much from the street. All intents and purposes, it could have been a much bigger house or taller house. So again, the height is not a problem. I think overall, my suggestion would be that we don't make the applicant move the shop back. That would be my opinion on that. I think that would be a mistake. I think he's being very considerate of the neighbor. As for the design, I think it's refreshing to see some contemporary and done well and nicely. And I think it's a very open space up there. So I feel like that adds to the overall, view of what is being built, and I think it'll give it a good look. So that's my opinion, and I think that those are my comments for tonight. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Christensen. Commissioner Gibson?
I was on DRC with Commissioner Neal, and to what has already been said, or I will echo that I don't have a concern really with the height for all the reasons that have been mentioned before, so I won't go into that anymore. But I am in agreement with many of the neighbors that have expressed concern that I actually believe that this building is noticeably inconsistent with the residence. I think the residence is a beautiful structure. I like the architecture and the style. I don't think that this shop matches the residence at all. The only thing that matches, in my opinion, is that the garage doors in the shop are going to be painted the same color. I'm not concerned with the color or shade of gray. I mean, that's, to me, is not a concern at all. But the architectural style of the shop is completely different than the architectural style of the house. And the concern I actually brought up in DRC was, and we had some conversation with staff, was the idea of building a all metal shop in a R1 zone. I still have that concern. If the shop somehow matched the architectural style of the house, either in the style of the house or more the overall design of the house, I wouldn't have as much of an issue. Because I don't believe it matches the house at all. I would actually want the shop pushed back. I don't think pushing it back 13 feet is going to substantially change the view of the neighbor. And I believe at the time we were DRC, I could be wrong, but there was going to be a wall that was going to go across from the house to the shop as well, and was going to just be, one kind of a solid, so in essence, look like a solid building going across. So those are my thoughts and concerns. Again, we've seen several letters from the neighbors expressing they are not in agreement with this. We had people call in tonight to say they are not in agreement with this. So I don't think it's actually accurate to portray that all the neighbors are behind this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gibson. So I agree with many of the things that have been said. I too am not concerned about an extra 1 foot and 1 inch in height if it's handled properly. And I'm kind of ambivalent on moving it back. I think the curve of the road makes that a bit of a moot point. But I'm very concerned that I don't see this as architecturally compatible, and that is what our zoning code requires. I don't think, I'm guessing, but I'm going to guess that staff didn't know those were either or colors. And I can't agree with my fellow commissioner who said gray's gray. Gray's not gray. This infinite gray is just like any other color. And I don't know what I would be approving if we don't even know which one it is. I don't think it was presented to us as an option. And so I'm unclear on that. I also, on the colors as they were presented, whether it's an option or not, I'm unclear on how those relate to the house, which I also think is delightful. I think the house looks great. I also drove up there today. The house is terrific. Compliment that very much. My comments are purely on this accessory building. Commissioner Kobler's comment about a hip roof would tie this whole thing together and make much of the color and material conversation much less important, I think. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. If the lines of this building, or the roof lines of this building, were more compatible with the house, they would make all the difference. And I think my other comments would go by the wayside. So I don't find it architecturally compatible. I'm all right with the sighting, and I'm all right with the variation on the height, 1 foot and 1 inch over the allowable height. So those are my comments. So commissioners, I'm going to go around one more time for comments. If you have any, don't feel required, but if you have any, let's go around again. Commissioner Kobler.
I think I've had adequate opportunity, Madam Chair, to state my thoughts and concerns.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
I've asked all of my questions. I've stated my opinion about the development and supportive of it. I did want to reiterate that there were letters of support for the architectural design in our packet. Thank you.
All right. I just to assure that all of the commissioners saw the addendum that was issued late this afternoon as well, that had lettered, were not entirely uniformly in support of the project. Commissioner Neal?
I think I made my opinion clear. I am comfortable with the structure. I don't even mind the shed roof. I just think we need to borrow some more materials from the building to make it more architecturally compatible.
All right, Commissioner Castillo.
I have no further comments, Madam Commissioner.
All right, Commissioner Christensen, any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to disagree with some other commissioners. I think it is very much a contemporary look that goes with the home. I think it's a style that's being sought, and I think that matched the home exactly. I personally, my opinion would be that it would be too much. It would be, the home would not stand out as nicely as it does. And I don't think you want the shop to actually be the focal point. I think you want the home to be the focal point. My opinion on that. And in regards to the roof, I can understand, sure, maybe a hip roof, but the shed roof I don't think looks bad at all. I think it's actually, again, it follows more along those contemporary lines, and it adds more value or viewable value to the home the way it sits. I also want to reiterate that it's surprising, it was kind of refreshing to have positive feedback from neighbors, which we don't often, I feel, get enough of. We do tend to get the people opposed to it. So I do agree that there were people that felt very comfortable with the project that are neighbors in the neighborhood, and we don't see that very often. So I'm glad that we got those in, and as well as hearing from the people that didn't like it. I'd like to hear what they have to say. And to me, it sounds like some of the concerns there, at least for the immediate neighbor, was view, and maybe I misinterpreted that. But again, I think that involves also not pushing the shop back. And again, with that curved frontage, I think that makes logical sense. And thank you.
All right, Commissioner Gibson, did you have any further comments?
Just one is just in clarification. So I appreciate staff's thoughts and concerns about relocating and pushing the building back. I think the only reason for doing that, in my opinion, is because I don't believe that the shop is architectural compatible with the house. If it was more architecturally compatible, or if I thought it was architecturally compatible, I wouldn't really care where they put the shop. They could leave it where it was, or whatever. I mean, the reason for moving it back would only be because to try and have it blend in, or in essence to hide it more. I think the staff indicated that normally they try to actually put these behind the house. Again, the only reason for doing that would be to hide it. So I would encourage a design that was more compatible architecturally with the house. And with that, I really then would have no concern where this it would be sited on the property. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we've gone around twice on comments. I will entertain a motion if a commissioner would like to do so.
I would be happy to make a motion. I do have a question. I want to make sure I know what my motion is. I recommend that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution A, Attachment 4, approving conditional permit 20-08 based on findings and subject to site-specific conditions of approval. But I would like to allow the applicant's positioning of the structure as originally proposed.
And I would second.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Commissioner Christensen would second that.
All right. So motion by Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Christensen. So one more time for discussion of the motion, Commissioner Kogler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm still struggling to support the motion just because I don't find it to be architecturally compatible. I think it's very close. I did take a look at the site a few days ago, and I think as you approach around the curvature of that private road coming in, this house strikes you as being stunning. And I see that this accessory building is less than that and less than compatible, and therefore I think may somewhat detract from the house. And so I have trouble supporting the motion as written. I believe with some design changes, this would be an approvable building at this site, at this location, at this height. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis. Did you have any further discussion?
I'm sorry, I don't know if I was on mute or unmute. I'm not quite sure how I would amend the motion based on Commissioner Kogler's request. I'll let my motion stand.
Commissioner Neal, any further discussion?
No further discussion.
Commissioner Castillo?
No further discussion.
Commissioner Christensen?
No, I did have a question. Would it be possible to ask the applicant about potential architectural changes that would satisfy Commissioner Kogler?
Staff, we have a motion. Are we allowed to do that?
As the maker of the motion, I would allow that. I'm open to that discussion, Chairperson. I'm open to discussion.
Staff, is that?
So it's commission's discretion in terms of reopening.
Well, the reason.
So Commissioner Christensen, would you, as the seconder of the motion, are you comfortable with that?
So, Madam Chairwoman, I'm comfortable with it. What I'm trying to get at is if we have the bulk of the pieces here, what is it that we need that would satisfy that? If we're getting an opinion that this may not be completely satisfactory for some of the commissioners architecturally speaking, other than say changing the roof design, what is it? Is it color? Is it something that the applicant could do that we could help assist this process through so that we're not bringing this back around full circle? That's what I'm getting at.
I'm gonna ask that we complete our comments first, and then we'll see if we do that. So Commissioner Gibson, did you have any further comments?
Just that I concur completely with Commissioner Kogler's comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I would just say that we are not here to redesign the building tonight. That is my final comment. So if Commissioner Davis, if you'd like to ask or Commissioner Christensen, as the mover and the second on motion, if you'd like to have the applicant answer some questions, I'll look to the two of you to ask those questions.
I think this is a beautiful project. I do want to see this move forward. I am open to discussing this with the applicant if the second is as well.
I think we've already concluded that. So go ahead and ask your questions of the applicant, please. Commissioner Davis.
Okay. Is the applicant online?
Yes, I'm still here. This is
okay.
John. Yep.
In your opinion, is there anything that you could do with the design that could modify slightly and meet some of the other fellow commissioners' concerns? I don't have a problem, but is there something that you could see that you could do?
Well, my wife and I are designing the building, and we like the shed roof because it fits that modern contemporary design. And we had a design that was a hip roof, traditional with a gable end, and it looked more like a barn and didn't really fit into the architecture of the house. One thing that we did on the structure is we extended all the eaves 3 feet match the house. The existing slope of the roof on the house is a 3-2 pitch. The shed roof is a 2-12 pitch, to minimize, like I said, the height also, but just to kind of help push that view towards the house. We really wanted to, like I said, as Commissioner Christensen mentioned, we want it to point to the house. We want the house to be the main, appeal, and to kind of minimize the shop as much as possible.
So are you wanting to stay with the existing roof design, or are you willing to modify it with that different pitch?
I would prefer to stay with that same design. Even if I went with a different structure, it would still probably be a shed roof structure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Hammond, this is Commissioner Christensen. I'm not referring to the roof per se. I'm saying that I know from hearing from one or two of the commissioners that there was a concern about the exterior design, maybe the simplicity of the design and the fact that there wasn't a chosen color was adding to that, I believe, for some other commissioners that were not pleased that we didn't have a distinctive gray color defined in the project. So I'm trying to see if there's, while we're here and now, if there are some of those things or something that you think you could do. And if not, it's okay, because I don't have a problem with the building either. I think it's going to be, I think it would be really nice. But if there's something you can come up with now, I would be curious to hear what your thoughts were. And if not, that's okay.
I don't have any other choices. When I submitted this to the planning department about a month and a half ago, or after the DRC about a month ago, I didn't have an exact color chosen because we haven't determined the color of gray for the steel structure. And so that's the reason I submitted it with two colors, because like I said, we just didn't have it narrowed down at the time when I submitted it. But like I said, sorry for the confusion there. But we want it to be, like I said, as minimal as possible is really what we want it to be. So.
Okay, well, thank you. That satisfies me as far as the discussion. So Commissioner Davis, if you want to let it stand, I'll still maintain the second.
Okay, I will let it stand.
All right. Here we have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen.
Aye.
Commissioner Kogler.
No.
Commissioner Neal.
No.
Commissioner Gibson.
No.
Commissioner Castillo.
Aye.
Chairperson Jorgensen.
No.
Motion passes, motion fails 3-4. So no action has been taken yet by the commission. So we need an alternate motion.
All right. Is there another commissioner or same commissioner who would like to make a motion that we can reconsider?
I would like to see this move forward. If I'll put a motion out there and see if there's any support that we refer the project back for additional discussion with the applicant. I hate to bring this back, but that's what I'm recommending at this time.
Could you word that a little more?
Number 3, refer the project back to staff.
Number 3. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Is there a second?
I will second that. This is Commissioner Gibson.
All right. So motion by Davis, second by Gibson. Let's go around for discussion again. Commissioner Coburn.
Madam Chair, could staff ask a question?
Yes, please.
Just for clarification, would that be back to staff and the Development Review Committee?
Or staff, the Development Review Committee, and the Planning Commission?
Well, that's interesting. I hadn't thought that through because DRC brought it to the full Planning Commission.
Well, it does appear we have design issues. They're best resolved at the Development Review Commission. So if there's design questions that need to be resolved, staff would recommend it goes back to the DRC.
Which would be number 3. Okay, my motion stands, option 3.
All right, I'm going to ask for clarification. So refer the project back to staff for additional analysis and then review and approval by the DRC? Is that the intent?
That's the intent.
All right. Is the seconder, Commissioner Gibson, are you okay with that?
Unfortunately, no. Option 3 says continuing the item to a future Planning Commission meeting to allow staff to work with the applicant to improve the compatibility of the project with the surrounding area, and that's exactly my sentiment.
Sorry, Mike was muted. On the screen, the options number 3 does not say that. Where are you looking?
I'm looking at the page 12 of the agenda.
You're right. What we have on the screen and what we have in the agenda do not match. So I would ask Commissioner Davis to look at page 12 and let's just be clear. So I mean, you can use either one or part of each or none of them, but I just want to be clear that we're all looking at the same thing.
This is Commissioner Christensen. Can I second her motion for number 3 that's on the screen?
No, we have a seconder. We need to see if the seconder is, they need to work this out first.
You have a seconder that doesn't agree with what the first motion was. So how do you have a seconder?
Thank you. Commissioner Davis, would you like to clarify?
Okay, I will amend my motion that option 3, as it reads in the staff report on page 12, continue the item to a future Planning Commission meeting to allow staff to work with the applicant and improve the compatibility of the project with the surrounding area.
This is Commissioner Gibson, as the seconder, I fully endorse and continue to second that motion.
All right, very good, thank you. Okay, by procedure, we do need to go around again for comment. Commissioner Kogler?
Yes, Madam Chair, just a question of staff. Did the DRC have the authority to approve this if they had found this to be architecturally compatible and that they were fine with the 16 feet 1 inch height? Was that something that would have had to come back to the Planning Commission, or was it discretionary that the DRC sent it back to us?
Yeah, the use permit can only be approved by the Planning Commission. So the Planning Commission is going to have to take final action. The DRC's role is just to make an advisement to the Planning Commission.
So really the only action then we could take is the one that's put on the table. It's not an option to send it back only to the DRC.
So from staff's perspective, if the DRC is where you work out design issues, it's not that they would approve it, but they could come up with an alternate recommendation for a different design, which I think is what staff would recommend as a next step.
Thank you.
Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, I will stick with my, well, we'll say that again, Warren, and now I'm confused. You said it could be handled at the DRC level?
No, the DRC can only make a recommendation to Planning Commission, but because we're at an impasse on design and the applicant doesn't appear to want to suggest a new design, it looks like it would take the DRC to work through that until we got to an alternate design recommendation to bring back to the commission for consideration.
What kind of timeline would that take? I just don't want this to go on forever.
I really think it's all up to the applicant.
I'm going to withdraw my motion at this time and see if we can come up with something as a full commission. Can I do that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So we're looking for another motion with different wording. Any commissioners?
Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes, of course.
This is
Commissioner
Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
So again, I was on DRC, and the issue was that we had an impasse at DRC, and just like tonight, and the applicant's perfectly within his right to do that. Every suggestion that was made or every concern that was expressed, he wanted to try and not make any changes. And again, he's perfectly within his right to do that. But I think that the issue may be, and the reason why that it was referred to, and you can see it in the minutes too, that it was referred to the entire planning commission because we did hit an impasse with the design.
All right, thank you. Would a commissioner like to make a new motion?
This is Commissioner Christensen, Madam Chairwoman. I'd like to make a motion that we accept item 3, refer the project back to staff for additional analysis, not item 3 on page 12.
And to me, that is not clear. Refer it to for additional analysis and then what? Analysis isn't a decision. So I'm unclear on that word.
I'm making the motion that I think we refer it back to staff for additional analysis as we have on number 3. If the staff then comes back and says that they work with the applicant, it needs to be put forth before the DRC, then I think that would be the recommendation from the staff. Am I mistaken in that, Warren? I thought that's what I heard just a little while ago.
That's what staff would recommend, that it'd be clear that staff and DRC would work on this additional analysis.
Madam Commissioner, this is John Hammond. Can I ask a question?
Let me see if we have a second, John. Hang on just a minute. Is there a second for this motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to second that if I could.
And that was Commissioner Castillo?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right. Okay, John, go ahead.
So the reason I'm applying for the conditional use permit, in my view and opinion, is for the variance for the extra foot in height and the steel structure. If I reduce my height down to 15 foot, then I don't need a conditional use permit and I can build whatever structure I want. It still has to meet DRC approval, but to me, from my understanding from what the approval is for the height and for the steel structure, not necessarily the exact design of it. I'm new to this, so I don't know exactly all the right steps, but that's what I thought tonight's hearing was for.
All right, staff, would you show us again the zoning code? You had a slide for that earlier, what we are reviewing tonight.
Yeah, and this is Darren. Maybe I can give a little background here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thanks, Darren.
So the zoning code allows detached accessory buildings to be approved at the DRC level if they are below the thresholds of less than 50% of the gross square footage of the primary residence, or less than 15 feet tall, or 15 feet or less. So this project, since it's over the 15 feet, and since the use of the metal, there's some questions in the zoning code of whether that's considered compatible or not, is the reason for the use permit, and that's what Mr. Hammond indicated why he was applying. If it was less than the height and we were below the 15 feet threshold, it can be reviewed at the DRC, but the DRC would still have to make these findings, and they would have to make the findings of compatibility architecturally with the primary residence. It doesn't necessarily mean that the applicant could build whatever they wanted if it was less than the 15 feet. It would still have to go through an architectural review where the DRC could review colors, materials, design for compatibility. What needs to happen here, and kind of as Warren has indicated, is option 3 of referring it back to staff. Staff is going to take the project with the applicant back to the DRC to discuss what we've discussed here tonight, if that's the motion. But we would be reviewing that at the DRC level to get to a point where hopefully the DRC can make a recommendation back up to the Planning Commission. But that's entirely up to the applicant to take in consideration some of the comments that were made tonight and see if there's any things that can be suggested that might address some of those concerns.
The main concern I heard addressed was it's not a hip roof. I'm not going to change that to a hip roof because, like I said, it doesn't follow that architectural look for mid-century modern. It doesn't. So we're at an impasse until I can get it down below 15 feet, I guess. Or I
don't know that was there were a number of comments. I wouldn't say that was the main one. In your house has a hip roof, so I'm not sure I understand that. But
yeah.
Staff, could you reread the motion? I think we've all lost track.
Yeah, so we have, a motion is to refer it back to staff for additional analysis with the option for staff to bring it back to DRC. That was first by Christensen, second by Castillo.
All right. And I don't recall where I was on discussion, so I am just going to ask commissioners, if you have further discussion, please just identify yourself and speak up.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Kogler. I'm sorry, but I need some clarification because what I heard the motion to be was what was on the screen, and then Warren kind of embellished it a bit by saying back to staff, DRC for analysis with the presumption that it would go to the Planning Commission. I would personally like to see option 3 that's in the staff report and maybe add the DRC to that language to say that it goes to the Planning Commission, the DRC, and then back to, staff, DRC, and then back to the Planning Commission. But so I'm not sure what I'm being asked to vote on here for sure, whether it's literally what is on the screen under the option or whether there was some hybrid with what was in the staff report as option 3.
So I think it's understood that this hearing item would have to come back to Planning Commission for final decision, but the interim steps would be back to staff. And then I believe Christensen clarified or allowed that that could include DRC. But if it's a CUP, it will come back to commission for final decision.
That's correct. That's my understanding. It very well could go to, it's going to go to DRC from staff, and then DRC could choose to move it on to the Planning Commission if that was something agreed to, and if the applicant so chose. That was my understanding. Thank you.
Madam Chair, just to clarify though, once again, it will go back to the Planning Commission. It's not a matter of whether DRC wants it to go or doesn't want it to go. It would go either with the recommendation of DRC or perhaps with some split, but it will go to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Only if the applicant so chose.
I think staff needs to clarify that process.
Staff, would you speak up for us?
So as long as this remains a CUP, it comes back to Planning Commission. And as Mr. Nash also stated, metal-sided accessory buildings also come to Planning Commission for decision. So unless the building didn't require those decisions any further, it would be back to Planning Commission.
All right, thank you. I think we're clear. All right, are there any other discussion, any further discussion before we vote on this motion?
Can I say one more thing? What if I convert it to a stucco?
Could you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, sorry, John Hammond, the applicant. If I make it a stucco building with a metal roof, to match the house. Would that be okay? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to find something. My problem is, if I go back to DRC, I'm out another month and a half before I get back to this point. You know, by the time I get to reapply with the city, get back into the scheduling, and I'd rather just be done with it. So if I convert the structure to a stucco structure, wood framed, would that suffice the commissioners? I'm trying to find something that's, you know.
I don't think we can redesign a building when we can't even see each other and have no drawings. And, you know, I don't think that's possible to do.
Fine. Okay.
All right. Any other commissioners? Any other discussion? All right. I'll call the question. Staff, please roll call vote.
Commissioner Christensen,
Aye, yes.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Kogler,
Aye.
Commissioner Neal,
Aye.
Commissioner Gibson,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Chairperson Jorgensen.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Okay. So we will move on to, that is our only public hearing for the night. So we will move on to discussion items. Mr. Brace?
There are none scheduled for tonight.
All right. And consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the Development Review Committee Development Review Committee minutes for August 17th, 24th, and 31st, and the Planning Commission minutes for August 25th?
So moved.
All right, Commissioner Kogler, is there a second?
Second.
I believe that was Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Kogler,
Aye.
Commissioner Gibson,
Aye.
Commissioner Neal, Commissioner Neal,
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Chairperson Jorgensen.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right. And Mr. Frace, are there any other reports?
There are no other reports.
Okay, would you tell us if there's any updates on, well, I guess the other reports includes housing constraints advisory and housing element, correct? So we don't have a report on those?
Yeah, there's no updates.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, it is time for Planning Commissioner comments. Let's go around the opposite of what we usually do. Commissioner Gibson?
I have no comments. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Christensen?
No comment.
Commissioner Castillo?
No comment, Madam Chair.
All right, Commissioner Neal?
No comment.
Commissioner Davis?
I have none. Thank you.
All right, and Commissioner Kogler?
Just a quick one, Madam Chair. Tonight's agenda item was interesting in that, you know, the aesthetics, the beauty, if you will, is frequently in the eye of the beholder, and we had some different beholders. I think it was a good discussion, and this is probably going to be a difficult case-by-case basis as we go through these. And I would just like to note, kind of for the record, that Mr. Hammond's last comment about stucco, I personally think would go a long ways towards bringing this into compatibility even with the shed roof. That's all I have to offer. Thank you.
All right, and I do not have any comments, so may we have staff comments?
Yes. So other items that are coming up, just a quick update on the Beechwood specific plan. As you recall, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of that to the City Council. We're still working out some of the final details on the development agreement. So it was first agendized for the September 1st City Council agenda. It was continued to next week's September 15th council agenda. It's going to be continued again to October, it looks like. We are hopeful that the development agreement will be ready for the first council meeting in October, but that hasn't been set yet. But we'll keep everybody apprised of the hearing schedule as that moves forward. There's an RV store.
Mr. Price, may I ask you a question on that one?
Certainly.
Are the development agreement discussions, are those, I'm sorry, the term is slipping my mind, confidential. What is the term for the meetings that are confidential prior to the public meetings, or are those public discussions? Can we know what
those are internal negotiations between the applicant and staff, and they are primarily financial issues related to both the city and the project. But when there's a final decision on that, that will be incorporated into the final version of the development agreement for public hearing.
All right, thank you.
We're working on an RV storage project that'll be out on the airport property off of Dry Creek Road. We expect that to be ready in October. Also, the Almond Acres project, that's been through DRC. DRC's asked for some changes. We're still working through that process. We do expect that'll be ready for public hearings at Planning Commission in October as well. The housing element is scheduled to be back for commission hearings in November, and then the Gateway annexation project that was approved by City Council already. We are working right now on the application to LAFCO. The goal is to get that basically briefed to do a briefing with the LAFCO board in October and hopefully be ready for an actual decision on the annexation around the end of the year. So that'll conclude staff's updates.
Madam Chair, may I follow up on one of those?
Excuse me, what did you, I didn't hear what you said, Commissioner Neal.
May I follow up on one of those items?
Yes, of course.
Warren, on the Almond Acres, is that going back to DRC or directly to Planning Commission?
Yeah, it's coming back to DRC. I believe it'll be next week.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, then I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Neal, second.
Second. Commissioner Gibson.
Gibson. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good evening. Bye-bye.